Hey everybody, how's it going? Talvor asked about general plans and strategy for Ravenwing, so I'm going to do my best to talk about that and my opinion, of course, about it. Um, so we're going to get right to it. If you need to know specifics about Ravenwing rules and Samael special rules and whatnot, my Codex In-Depth Dark Angels series covers both of them. So, and there, I can always do other videos in the future about specifics for Ravenwing and whatnot, but this is going to assume you know the basic rules and basic information you need to know about Ravenwing. Firstly, Ravenwing is fast. They're scouts. They're fearless, so they can outflank also for being scouts. And they're shooty. This is the army in a nutshell. They're also small. You have to be careful. You're going to be outnumbered a lot, and you're not going to have much on the board. You want to rely on your speed, and shooting really because you're relentless. In this case, really helps with that. Because you're relentless, you can move and shoot everything. So there's no real reason to get locked into assault for possibly a couple of turns, or even get locked into assault at all, unless of course situation arises where you have to assault, which that does happen. But in general, Ravenwing doesn't need to assault. All it's going to do is slow you down, potentially, and aside from slowing you down, it's also going to potentially hurt you a lot more, because most of the time the things you go into assault will probably be in cover in some type of terrain, and you have to make dangerous terrain checks for that, and I love failing those. But sometimes you gotta bite the bullet and do what must be done. But otherwise, be conservative in your assaulting. Don't go crazy with it. Do it only when absolutely necessary. This is more of a surgical precision type of army. It's not the as opposed to orcs. You know, they can just run at it. Of course, carefully. Assaulting is harder than it looks, but that's more blunt force, sledgehammer hitting you. Same thing with the Imperial Guard. Where Space Marines, of course, has always been surgical, but Space Marine bikes and Space Marine Ravenwing bikes, because they're even smaller than biker armies in general, are much more precision based. You want to go in there and hit things for a specific reason. You don't want to hit it just for the sake of hitting it. Because of this, your units have to be dedicated to specific roles. Now, an anti-tank bike unit with 2 melter guns can still, of course, shoot up infantry. In fact, if there's no tanks in range, you might as well shoot at something you can hurt, and so infantry is the way to go. But aside from that, they should have a specific role that their special weapons dictate, and you should always take 2, because they can take up to 2. And but you shouldn't mix and match. You should take doubles. So if a squad has a flamer, give it a second flamer. If a squad has a melter gun, give it a second melter gun, and so on. When you mix and match them, they become less effective, because one weapon probably won't fire. If they do both fire, one's not being utilized to its best extent. So just give them doubles. It's better off that way. I suggest taking at least a power weapon. Some people swear by power fists only, and if you have the points for it, that's great, and I find that people who do have the points for a power fist will take one. I take power fist when I can, because I suck at rolling to wound, but at the very least a power weapon, it gives you another edge that your squad would have lacked in close combat, which is denying armor saves. Not saying that other squads can't do that, but of course it can. You see every squad that can take a power weapon can of course do that, but Ravenwing, it helps them. It helps them out more so because of the squad size and the points and whatnot. What else is there? So that's your weapons. Keep in mind that your basic answer to everything is probably going to be a melter gun. As far as vehicles go, high toughness creatures go. So that means you have to get in kind of close to deal with the scarier things like tanks and whatnot. But that's okay. You do have the speed to do that. And when we're talking about speed, I don't know if I said this right, I don't think I did, but don't overextend yourself. You can do that very quickly with fast armies. And it's evident in other armies that have like a squad and a rhino and whatnot. The rhino goes out too far, it gets blasted apart, and the squad's left high and dry, leading back up. This is more so with an army that's entirely fast. It's harder for Ravenwing to actually kind of be unsupported, but at the same time, you can spread yourself out, spread yourself thin, and then you have a lot more hits coming at you, a lot more bad things coming your way that you can't support yourself because everything's getting hit by it. So be careful with that. Don't forget about your opponent. Your opponent probably has fast-moving things too. Things that can get close in to assault you quickly because they either can move 12 inches or assault 12 inches or assault out of a vehicle. So be careful. Keep note of what your opponent has that can do that and try and draw them out and deal with them without sacrificing attention to the rest of the enemy army, of course. So basically, you should always plan to be surgical. Don't be a hammer, be a scalpel. Get in there and cut things away from the enemy, or at least ruin the enemy, and then get out of there. You're a hit-and-run type of army. And whenever anybody talks about hit-and-run in 40k, they're talking about air-style armies, and Ravenwing is an air army. It's fast. Get in there, hit it, and then get out of there. You can do that because you can get in there, fire it up, shoot it up a bunch, maybe assault some stragglers, and then next turn you can Terra Boost away, either straight away or behind some terrain to redeploy to hit something else. And part of this is going to come from understanding what your opponent's feeling that is vulnerable to your hits, or what's vulnerable in general to their army. And part of your army outflanking can kind of help you with this, because outflanking can help you get behind enemy lines quicker than just getting across the board. Of course, it's a risk, whatever what you do, because they might not come until 5th turn, or they may come too soon, but you have to just take risks sometimes. That's pretty much it for Ravenwing's general planning and general strategy. A Ravenwing army has many similarities to other biker armies, but I'm just talking about Ravenwing here. So if you're thinking, hey, this works for White Scars, or hey, this works for Elder Jet bikes, you're probably right. One last thing to talk about, though, is your speed in terms of missions. You should always play to the mission with almost any army, in my opinion, because you don't want to forget the mission. When you forget the mission, you can be destroying the enemy, but still lose because you have no objectives. So pay attention to the mission, but Ravenwing, because of your size, should play more so to the mission, because you don't want to overextend yourself and take too many casualties and be ineffective at taking anything. With objectives, for example, your opponent has to be static. Or more static than they may normally be when they're not like a biker army or an air-style army, because they have to go out and claim objectives or sit on their own and send something your way. What you can do with your speed is not sit on any objectives and then go full bore at the enemy, pick them apart, and then redeploy to claim your own objective, for the ones you have one in each deployment zone, or claim the rest of the objectives on the board. You can hit harder with more weight as the turns go on than your opponent can, because they're gonna try and hold objectives, of course. So don't be afraid to be more fluid. Just remember that your range is, with turbo boosting, what that is in relation to where the objectives are, and then do the damage. And when it comes to the fact that it may be your last turn, you can then zip out of there with turbo boosting, claim objectives, or contest enemy objectives. So you can take objectives that your opponent thought was out of your reach, and you can claim his objectives that he thought was safe. This can turn defeat into victory or a draw, so something else to keep in mind. This is pretty much it for the very basics, a very generalistic view of Ravenwing in general. That was a really weird sentence. But anyway, I can of course go into certain aspects in more detail in other videos and whatnot. I hope this was somewhat helpful and not just a rambling, random, boring video. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. So until next time, take it easy.